Hi there. This is the middle of a series of 3 videos inspired by talks by the Jungian analyst James Hollis, who has written many wonderful and insightful books about the human condition, including The Middle Passage, The Eden Project, Swamplands of the Soul, and Finding Meaning in the Second Half of Life. One of the things that stuck out for me in his talks was how his signposts to personal growth and maturity really point in the opposite direction to the ones that our culture promotes. I've tended to think that much of what our culture and pop psychology talks about isn't just irrelevant to mental health, it's actually detrimental. It takes people in the wrong direction, leads them away from more fulfilling lives, and makes them more vulnerable to psychological difficulty, not less. The 3 A's for Hollis are anxiety, ambivalence, and ambiguity. I've talked about anxiety in an earlier video. Today, I'll focus on ambivalence. And please, I am not making any real attempt to represent James Hollis's ideas. He speaks very well for himself. This is more some of the reflections that I've had to those ideas. Please go to the source for the real stuff. A lot of us are on a quest for certainty. We want to know we're on the right path. We want to have a kind of purity of intention and purpose. We want to be all in with our lives. What all of these things are talking about is a lack of ambivalence. Well, that begs a bit of a question. The term can sound a bit vague. What do we really mean by ambivalence? Well, think about any potential goal, plan, or action you might have in your life. It probably helps if it's a somewhat significant one, not just whether you want to watch the hockey game tonight. Do you want to move elsewhere in the country? Do you want to get married to this person? Do you want a career in this certain field? Do you want to retire next year? Take an object, any object at all, set it in front of you. There's that possibility: marriage, retirement, divorce, having kids, becoming a psychologist, downsizing the house, moving out of your parents' home, whatever. You can think of a line like an arrow pointing toward that object. These are all the factors leading you in that direction, the positive aspects of it, the temptations, the good points. If we have kids, it'll give my life more of a focus. And I like kids. And I love the image of being a real family. And I want to pass on some of what I know. In therapy, when we're exploring someone's ambivalence about making some kind of move in the person's life, I'll invite them to just sit on that line and identify all the different aspects of it, all the things leading you in that direction. These are the attractions. Now there's a second line, a second arrow, and it points away from that object. You can think of it as being parallel to that first line, but the arrow points to you, not to the object. These are all the things pushing you away from that object, repelling you from it, the good reasons not to do it, the unpleasant aspects of it, the attractions of the status quo, the alternatives that you'd have to give up in order to take that option. Let's see. Having kids. Well, not much sleep for a long time. All that extra expense. Feeling trapped in my current job because I need the financial security, or one of us having to take leave and coping on a reduced income, not being able to pick up stakes and move to Bali, having a harder time traveling, and maybe there are more. In therapy, we can switch tasks and contemplate the repulsive arrow for a bit, talking about all the factors making us think it's not a good idea. And we almost always have a list of things for both directions, toward and away. Good reasons to move in that direction, good reasons not to. things we like about this job, things we don't like, good bits of this relationship, not so good bits. As human beings, I think we are naturally drawn to the idea of an entirely one-sided evaluation. I want to love everything about this job. I want to hate everything about that political party. I want every fiber of my being to want to have kids. I want no reservations about getting married. It's understandable. Those are easy decisions. There's almost no decision to make. If it's all positive and no negatives, of course you'll do it. If it's all downside and no up, there's no way you'll even be tempted. Pop psychology and pop mental health are often at their most attractive when they feed your desires. We want to believe we have unlimited potential. So hucksters saying that are going to make a lot of money. We want to fully understand other people. So theories pushing bogus personality types are really tempting. We dislike feeling stressed and anxious. So we will buy any book that promises to conquer those feelings. And we want purity of motivation. We want to be all in or all out. No doubts, no misgivings, no downside to whatever we choose to do. No ambiguity. Much of my practice for the last number of years has been with young people struggling at the cusp of adult independence, what some people call the failure to launch problem. And they will often say, how do I know what I want to do with my life? How can I be sure that this is the right education program? How can I make the very best step? The natural desire is to want that certainty, that clarity. And what's harder to come to terms with is the fact that that clarity isn't attainable. It's not even particularly desirable. Imagine knowing at 20 exactly what you want your whole life to be about, and then spending the next 60 or 70 years just plodding down that path that you'd laid out for yourself. No twists, no turns, no surprises, no disappointments, no failures. What an awful life. Oscar Wilde once said there are two great tragedies in life: not getting what you want and getting what you want. The problem that so many people are trying to solve is how to eliminate one of those arrows, overcome the ambivalence. How do they commit and become all in with that program, that career, that person, that life, those kids, that community? And popular discussions of psychology often feed that quest. But it's a mistake. If you eradicate the attractions of a path you've decided not to take, or the downsides of a path you did take, you probably have not fundamentally changed the path. You've only engaged in denial. You've shoved the feelings that run counter to your actions out of awareness. But they're still there. And because you're pretending they don't exist, they can run free, off leash, unsupervised. And sooner or later, they may come out in unexpected ways. You wind up sabotaging your career, or your marriage, or your life, because you weren't open to a full awareness of reality. It's tempting to imagine what will happen as we get older. We'll develop tremendous clarity of purpose. Ambivalence and indecision will drop away, and we will always know what we want. We will, at long last, be free of doubt. We will know for sure. But we won't. This is just one of the myths that our culture foists on us. It sells books, it sells workshops, it sells religious faiths, it sells political parties, and it can justify rage against anyone who doesn't agree with us. Ambivalence is not the enemy. We don't have to get rid of it to take charge of our lives, which is a good thing because we can't get rid of it for real. We can only pretend that it's gone, or that someday, when we are wise, it will go. It won't. The real mission of adulthood and maturity lies in the opposite direction, in the recognition that ambivalence is a normal part of life, that everything is a mixed bag, that there are reasons to do and not do almost anything. The mission is to view the presence of downsides as natural and expected, not as reasons to sit paralyzed on the couch, unable to make a decision. We will never fully conquer our anxiety. We can only make friends of it. And the same is true of ambivalence. It will always be there. We will never achieve that complete purity of purpose, which, if we ever had it, was an illusion brought about by denial. What we can do is embrace it, recognize it as a normal part of life and not a barrier to action. So that's the second of Hollis's 3 A's. What's the third? Ambiguity, which I'll discuss in the next post. Thanks for watching. My books, How to Be Miserable, 40 Strategies You Already Use, and How to Be Miserable in Your 20s, are available through all major booksellers.